everybody. My name is Susan St. Jean. I am a psychic medium. And more importantly for today, I am the channel of the Council of Engma. And those of you that don't know the Council of Engma, all of the love, wisdom, and healing of Engma is Jesus, the 12 apostles, Archangel Michael, Archangel Raphael, Moses, Muhammad, and Einstein. And we have Loretta Thurlow, we have Sandy Hamlin here that are going to be asking Engma questions today. And so they can enlighten us with some of their higher teachings. So,
the first question we have today is that we would like Engma to explain people who are seeking enlightenment versus those who are not. Will they be separated by a dimension?
in the time lapse that's happening right now, and we use the word time lapse because for those that are in a separate vibration, those that are going through an ascension process will not be in the time lapse. So we want to kind of critique some of the understandings that's going on around this topic. And what we want to say is that there will be more of a time lapse and a time warp for those that are not ascending. There's going to be a cutoff because you can't just say, is there going to be now two different camps, right? This vibrational camp, that vibrational camp. Because with frequency, it's always in a variance, right? And energy is forever morphing and changing. So to say that there's going to be a split off of consciousness is really not as thorough of what is happening as we would like to speak on today. So for those that still aren't open and or know of different things but are not open to it, they automatically are cutting themselves off for the potentiality of having the higher vibration of the split off of what your question is referencing. So, so that's kind of the dynamics of it. For those that understand unseen and understand more of the laws of energy and are more open to that, so that now they're experiencing them, and it's not, we don't like the word manipulation, but it is affecting them as a vibration just because they are open to possibility. Within the universe of eternity, you can't have eternity of infinite possibility. You can't tap into infinite possibility unless you are open to all possibility. So we just want to address the topic in our view on it, and not what others maybe are speaking on it. And so again, there's going to be variance. And it doesn't mean when we think of a split off within the human consciousness, it would be you missed the boat, right? You've missed the boat. And so that does not leave room for those that were on the cusp, right? Mm-hmm. So where is the cutoff going to be? And should there be a cutoff, right? So what we want to say and address on this topic is those that are speaking on this topic, we have to remember as a collective, if we are setting it up as a collective consciousness, that there's going to be a split and there will be two consciousnesses within the earth plane. Not that there's going to be another earth. We will be everyone will be on the same dimensional earth plane known as Mother Gaia. However, to say that now there's going to just be two is limited. So it really is more variable. So let's say for human understanding, we're going to leave it at a number of two. But within this one and this one, there are going to be different levels of frequency and vibration. It's not that everyone is just obtaining this one vibration and everyone here is obtaining the same vibration. So there will be variance. Any questions on any of that? That's the
perfect sense. Yeah, it does.
Okay.
Excellent. Thank you. Very clear answer to that.
Okay.
Very good. Another question. How does one tap into the stream of consciousness?
Firstly, one would not look at it as something separate and outside of themselves. Okay, within human consciousness, there is that dynamic within the matrix of duality where the human does tend to perceive as the separate self. So it really is going to be a retraining. And so again, what we would want to do with your question as an example is to teach you to articulate and be impeccable with the question, right? Which is the level of consciousness and how people are setting their own thought patterns and everything up. So firstly, what we want to say on that is that there is much weight in how to achieve when you are talking consciousness in the way that you're perceiving. So if you're sitting and you're wanting to meditate and you're thinking, I want to tap into higher consciousness, the first thing would be to recognize yourself as that higher consciousness, because you are, the truth of you is that you already are that. Not even that you're not tapping into it, or that you can't, you have to learn how. So it really is about getting out of the way in the self, the perceived self, and the way that we set up how we go about it is going to be, it carries a lot of weight as far as whether or not you are able to, or whether or not, okay. So what they're saying right now is to phrase it somewhere along the lines of, I would like to manifest in word and action in this moment my higher self. I call to myself in this dimension the higher aspect of myself. And so again, setting it up that way, you're acknowledging the aspect of you that is higher consciousness, instead of seeing it as it's something outside of you that you have to plug into or you have to tap into. So we can't stress enough the importance and the weight, energetic weight of what carries when you set it up in the way that we're speaking of. Yep, we're on.
Okay. Concerning the question of how to tap into your higher self.
Right.
Okay, I have a question, because I do this. I have tapped into stream of consciousness. We were outside with Carrie, remember that? And the stream of consciousness came through. I was able to do that. But I also have, on the other hand, when I'm lying in bed sometime at night, I will ask for my higher self to come in. Are they one and the same? Is that the same thing?
Oh, see, now this is interesting because, excuse me, that's what they were just talking about. So see, you were setting it up the correct way, or the most beneficial way, without energetic blocks in consciousness, because you are calling in
my higher self,
your higher self. So you and the way you were doing it is a perfect example of what they just talked about, right? So once again, can you ask the question again? What's the difference of what?
between, because when we were outside, when Carrie was here last year, I tapped into the stream of consciousness and started channeling something, and that's where the information came from. But when I'm at home, sometime at night, I'll lie in bed and I will ask for my higher self to come in, and I will get.
Okay, So what we want to say on that is that, and I'm pretty sure that I'm understanding your question, Sandy. The way that you're asking the question, the answer would be it's two separate things.
Yeah.
But in the big picture, it's all the same.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Because the higher self, right? You have to remember the different split offs of Mother, Father, God, right? And so we are on a journey of consciousness that right now we're perceiving as separate individuals, right? So you would perceive it as calling in your Sandra's higher self. When society or even individuals can get to the point where they really are manifesting in the remembrance and they're honing the vibration of the thread of oneness, then the first question would never even be in the realm of your consciousness. It wouldn't even be a thought to ask that question. It would be because you acknowledge yourself as unseparated. Right? So, but what we want to say to that is it is baby steps when you're in the matrix of duality here.
Right.
Right? Because some people, they don't even know of the higher self. So it's not a bad thing that you are calling in your higher self, and at times calling in, or not calling in, but having intention. And we want to say that intention is everything. So again, what springboard of intention are you going to go off of? Because the vibration of that springboard, it's kind of like what they were talking about the other day, is that the focus point of thought, think of like being on stage and the focus point of the person in the light, right? That focus point of thought and consciousness of mind of the human, okay, or not just the human, it's natural law, is the springboard of creation. That's where creational things are. It's being able to come into creation. So the focus point, and that's why we can't stress enough how people set up their consciousness in their perceptions. And whether it's a question or just thinking about something, it has everything to do with perception. And so the focus point is where creation creates from. It gives birth to. Yeah, exactly. It's where creation is given birth from, is the focus point.
So I need to have a focus point? Because I'm just asking for the highest self to come in and...
No, what we're saying is in this example, you've given two examples of two different focus points.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah.
As an illustration. One of them was with intention, a focus point of intention, and the way you were setting it up was to call in Sandra's highest self. Okay? Whereas the other, you're saying, is there a difference of tapping into, the focus point being tapping into just the stream of consciousness. Now, again, you can expound on that because there's different levels of consciousness.
The next question is, as a human, when we cross, can we come back as an animal?
If you've already, are you asking from the point of view of evolution?
Yes.
Okay. When you are out of body and you have gotten your data of what you still need to master, you can do whatever you want that you think will achieve that. If you think that you'll achieve it in what's known as, say, a dog or a bird or a tree, whatever you need to obtain you can do whatever you want is basically the question, is basically the answer. Yeah. Now I know that I don't know a lot about the theory of evolution, but that there's, you go from a bug to a frog to a this to a that. So, and again, it's always set up as hierarchy, you keep going up the ladder. But yet, in the human consciousness, which they talked about before, is most humans, you think of dogs as a less than species, right? But there are dogs that, not all dogs, but there are dogs that come here and they are ascended masters, and they are all dogs are teachers, but there are different levels of consciousness in animals as well. And there's a topic, the different levels of consciousness in all. Blade of grass is not the same consciousness of another blade of grass. So, and actually, expounding on what they were talking about before, the blade of grass, if Loretta kept going around, that blade of grass would be limited in being able to have full unlimited experience, so it wouldn't have the platform to evolve as much and connect in with another level of consciousness. So that's an example. Or again, it's always from the springboard of the focus point of the consciousness within how one is perceiving. So if Loretta, as she speaks of now, has such reverence for the grass, that grass is going to bump up in consciousness because you're connecting with it, and as well as you are going to bump up in consciousness because you're connecting in with the grass. Those that have no reverence at all, and they just see it as, freaking grass I have to mow, right? It's pretty, but I have to mow it. So again, there's the waxing and the waning of consciousness of how the grass is getting affected from the consciousness of what's being perceived of me as a blade of grass.
And that's how we are all one, because it's your consciousness that connects with that and changes that.
Absolutely.
And you as well.
Yep.
The person thinking it as well.
Yep.
My grass is blooming.
I know. I said to you, oh my God, it looks great.
It's amazing.
For that matter, mine's a pretty good testament too.
Yeah.
I didn't have grass, remember?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's right. Did you do anything with it?
Nothing than what we're talking about.
That's what I did with that area there. When I walk up the hill, and I always talk to those flowers, and I touch them and tell them they're doing such a beautiful job, and thank you so much, and I love you, and they're just like, boo, they're getting real big, and it's like, oh, they're that big, and that's well set in the first year. Usually it takes a few years for them to get like that. So it does.
That's what I do to all my plants.
Yeah.
I did it with my tomatoes, my peppers.
They need to bring in some clarification on that last question.
Okay.
You can only come back, let's say as a dog, or let's say as a frog, if it's a matching frequency.
Okay.
So
That makes sense.
They're now talking about when the consciousness, we are the, what was it they said? We are the essence of watermelon.
Right.
And it's funny too, because it wasn't I am, it was we are. We are the essence of watermelon. So not all watermelons are the same. It would be the same thing if they have pesticides on them, or if they, you know what I'm saying, or if they're in a ground that is not as nutrient, or the farmer isn't bringing in all of the nutrients and everything. And what they're saying is not just nutrients of how we're thinking nutrients, but the nutrients of consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
The nutrients of consciousness, that's definitely a topic. That's a chapter title. Bringing in the nutrients of consciousness, no matter what it is. When we feed ourselves, we think about what that, we read the label,
Mm-hmm.
what it gives us, what it doesn't give us, what's good for us, what isn't good for us. But what Engma's saying is that a lot of that has to do with the nutrients of consciousness. If you're focusing on how bad this is for me, how bad this is for me, how bad this is for me, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be a lot worse than what the label tells you.
Okay.
Again,
Because you're putting a microscope
exactly
on it and expanding
what you're
it.
manifesting
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
from that focus point.
The last question is, what is the means of propulsion for starships off-worlders? How do they run their...
Thought.
No, it's the, you were asking about the starship itself, right? The
Thought.
ship itself. Oh, thought. That's the answer.
Mm-hmm.
That's very cool.
That makes
Consciousness,
sense.
thought. Mm-hmm.
And
Was that Einstein?
how far are we from attaining that?
So funny. He's funny. He just went like this and dust came off of him.
Somebody's finally asking me a
He's
question.
doing this. He's like,
I'm sure.
Oh, you woke me up.
He's been here.
I love
waiting
you,
and
Einstein.
waiting, once again, waiting and waiting.
that's so cute. He had dust coming off of him. He was like,
Yeah.
That's adorable. We
Just
love
love
you,
him.
Einstein.
thought. Okay. Engma, you want to expound on that? Okay, what they're showing me is that, again, in our level of understanding and consciousness, we think from the spaceship going from point A to point B
Mm-hmm.
and traveling that distance.
Mhm.
And what they're saying is that that's not how it happens. How it happens is thought.
Mhm.
So if I want to go from here to there, then I think it and boom, I'm there. If I have stops along the way, then I stop and then I go and then so it's all consciousness. And the reason is because they're in a velocity of dimensionality, that the natural laws within creation are attuned to that possibility. To use thought to propel, to be utilized to manifest movement, or what would the word be? Travel would be a word that we would use. I'm asking them right now, what if there's portals, black holes they have to go through, and because I'm assuming, oh no, I'm not assuming, I'm being shown this, that some black holes, there's a lot of, like if you had an airplane going through it,
Mhm. Yeah.
Well, turbulence.
It'd
there'd be
torn
a
apart.
lot of turbulence. So that would be a good, you know how, like I told you about when I saw the one down here, just the light ship?
Yes.
And it was manifested and then it dematerialized and then it materialized again. But that would be a point where if they wanted to, they would just already be on the other side of that black hole
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
or whatever.
They wouldn't have to go through it and experience it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Any other questions from that? About that question? Or? Guys, I
How far away are we from attaining this?
Thank you, Einstein. so appreciate.
Was this something that
All
he
that
was
you did.
working on when he was on this earth plane? Was he aware
Well, to
of this?
clarify, he's saying it wasn't all me,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
Because there's collective, it was collective, but he definitely had input. But he was just excited because you said his name, and it kind of was like,
Finally.
because really we don't
Mm-mm.
focus in individually a lot.
Yeah.
You know, it's Engma.
Yeah.
It's funny, but I do feel a particular attraction to Einstein. I love numbers and I love numerology.
He just said, you are a number. Do you know that?
What is my number?
8.
8.
Everyone's number is 8.
Really?
Really?
Infinity?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Einstein.
Was he conscious of this when he was on the earth plane?
Was he conscious of what?
Of this thought process that starships go through, use thought instead of some type of energetic thing for propulsion? Or is this something you learned since he's over there?
He's saying he was on the cusp of it.
Okay.
But it's much like, he's saying it's much like reading some material when it's a little bit over your head.
Yeah.
And you kind of get, I think I'm getting this right.
Mm-hmm.
He was at that point.
Okay.
Yeah. But he wasn't able to articulate it.
Are there people on this
Here.
earth plane that are at that point? They're getting that know that, and are trying to...
Scientists and stuff?
Yes,
you mean?
yeah. Researchers or scientists or somebody.
Yes, but not in their consciousness in the human. So again, what they're talking about is when we invoke the higher wisdom.
Okay.
Okay.
That's what scientists need to do.
Okay.
They need to start invoking the higher wisdom,
Mhm.
and he's all excited right now. He's up now out of the chair. Yeah. He's walking around it. He's pacing. He's like, yes, this is so important.
Yeah.
This has to be in the book. This has to be put out there.
Okay, and we can have a chapter on
To
Einstein.
invoke, in other words, again, getting out of the scientific mind. That's part of what's holding us back, he's saying. And he's saying, I'm saying this with love and reverence of being a scientist myself.
Mm-hmm.
So, but getting out of the mind and trying to figure it out, it's as simple as invoking the wisdom.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Think outside the box.
Yeah. That's cool.
Very cool.
Very cool.
So
wow.
that should be a chapter in the book. Einstein saying.
He's saying that you might find these, the box of Cracker Jacks?
Yes.
And the nuts are so good, but there might be 1 or 2, and that you eat the whole box trying to find another nut. He's saying that's...
Where did I hear this?
She just said it.
No, but I mean...
A couple of days ago she said it.
Yes, okay, that was it. Yeah.
He's saying that there won't be many that would even be able to be... It wouldn't would be open now than he's saying in my time, but
right.
Wouldn't be. Again, we're talking about the split off of consciousness.
Okay, but wouldn't it being in the book, could they not then draw the scientists that need to see this to that chapter in the book? Because that would, do you know what I mean?
Yes, but again, it's not just free. What he's saying is it's not just free will. It's level of consciousness.
Right, I know.
So even though I'm open, right, because I'm a scientist, even though now I'm starting to become more open, right,
yeah.
I'm still so ingrained in the left brain.
Right.
Is my natural authentic self in this expression, right? They would have to watch YouTube videos that teach you how to stimulate the right brain. I mean, it would be a process to be able to then invoke, to get to a vibration and enough in the right brain to be able to invoke it. So in other words, that you could,
So wouldn't it be simpler?
so that consciously you become a landing strip
Okay.
for that consciousness to land in. Because otherwise, the plane would just circle. Because
Right.
you wouldn't be able, you wouldn't become the airport and the strip that wisdom could land on.
Yeah.
Because you're so much
In the left
scientific,
brain, right?
and it's not that you don't want to even.